for this short video that will dig into the high-level focus documents for mathematics that have been created as part of the Creating Equitable Schools Roadmap. This is Rachel Haverstick with the Teaching and Learning team at IU13. This year has posed many challenges for schools across the country, but with challenge also comes opportunity. Each year, students enter our classrooms with a wide variety of readiness levels. This year, that may feel even more compounded depending on students' educational experiences this spring and the structure of school this fall. Regardless of the student's educational experience, it is extremely important that we spend the vast majority of our time with learners engaging them in grade level content and accelerate or remediate as needed. This will ensure that all learners have access to grade level content, which is critical to avoid further learning gaps. There's no denying that this year is different. For many educators, instructional time with students or the mode of teaching and instruction is different. Time has always been a scarce commodity, made harder this year by unfinished learning in the spring. This year more than ever, we must make strategic instructional decisions in regard to which content we prioritize. Assessments also play an important role in determining what students need, where students would benefit from acceleration, and where unfinished learning needs to be addressed. The Pennsylvania Department of Education has developed a guidance document designated to identify areas of high-level focus in mathematics instruction supported by key Pennsylvania academic standards. Although all standards should be covered, this resource will help us to determine content that is worthy of spending your valuable time and resources on. To answer some questions about these high-level focus documents, we have Kevin Morrow, Mathematics Advisor for the Bureau of Curriculum, Assessment, Instruction at the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Thanks for joining us, Kevin.
Thank you, Rachel.
Let's start with, what was the intent of developing these high-level focus documents, particularly the ones for mathematics grades K-8 and Algebra I?
Thanks for that important question. At the beginning of the pandemic crisis, PD content advisors compiled online resources for educators to use when planning instruction for the sudden move to remote learning. As it became clear to LEAs had to reopen schools in the fall with possible learning loss of students, PD expanded available instructional resources to schools through creation of high-level focus of instruction documents supported by key PA academic standards. The intent of the development of these subject-specific documents was not to minimize the importance of any particular standard, but to focus on available teaching and learning time on the standards that give the best foundation for students as they progress toward grade level proficiency. As you stated previously, all standards deserve a defined level of instruction. However, the reality is we don't know the effects of this disruption. Therefore, we need to laser focus our instruction in order to give students the best opportunity to learn.
Thanks, Kevin. How were these standards that were included in these documents selected?
We at PD spent time researching reliable resources such as Achieve the Core and CCSSO and consulted with several state departments of education. We then referred to the PA core standards and the grade level assessment anchors and eligible content in the mathematics instructional frameworks to identify consistent concepts through grade levels. The standards that were not included within this document are no less important, and teachers need to find instructional methods to incorporate them in the classroom. This can be done through cross-curricular lessons or lessons that incorporate multiple concepts and competencies.
Great. Can you explain the progression of the focused areas of instruction from grade level to grade level?
Absolutely. While reviewing the PA core standards, assessment anchors and eligible content, along with referencing the mathematical instructional frameworks mentioned earlier, key grade level concepts and competencies were identified at each grade level. Then the correlating standards were then reviewed and mapped out grade level to grade level to ensure consistent flow of instruction.
Wonderful. How do these documents relate to focus standards that a district may have already identified within their own curriculum?
It is important to remember a wide variety of diversity in LEAs across Pennsylvania. Some districts returned entirely to in-person teaching, some returned to hybrid teaching model, others returned to a complete remote teaching, and that's changed from day to day recently. We know that some districts are able to meet their local curriculum without interruption. and therefore these documents may not be necessary. If a district already adjusted their local curriculum to focus teaching and learning in light of possible learning gaps, it may be useful to compare and identify areas of focus with these documents. It is critical for LEAs to evaluate learning loss at individual schools and make curricular decisions accordingly. For example, a school within an LEA may spend more time on one concept or competency to meet the needs of a student body. In other words, one size does not fit all.
Great information and perspective. And our last question, how do you envision that our administrators and teachers will be using these documents?
With these documents, one thing you need to keep in mind is diagnostic and formative assessments to help determine the strengths and weaknesses and knowledge and skills. They allow teachers to intervene at a point where students begin to struggle or when they are performing above or below grade level. It is critical for LEAs to evaluate learning loss and look at these standards as an individual school and make curricular decisions accordingly. For example, schools within LEA may spend more time on a particular concept or competency and less time on others, depending on the assessments and data that they acquire from their students.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
We really appreciate having the answers to these important documents to begin using them in our school systems. This year is unique, and we must be intentional on how we spend our precious instructional time. We hope that you'll take the time to review the high-level focus documents for K-8 mathematics and Algebra I, which can be found on SAS under the Instruction tab, as well as on the Equitable Schools Roadmap webpage. Take time to compare them to your current curriculum guides. Use diagnostic, formative, and summative assessments to identify content that you may need to scaffold or accelerate. Connect with your colleagues to collaborate and plan for instruction, and please reach out to us at IU13 for more information or additional support. Thank you so much for joining us today.